Welcome back. Today I continue with my Chess Everyday program, by which I mean I try to do something every day that will help me to get better at chess. In this case, it's going to be puzzles on chess.com. In my last video a few days ago, I made it to 2046. If I'm not mistaken, I made it to 2046 twice in that video, but I failed a puzzle and had to work my way back up. But anyway, here I am playing with the white pieces. As always, we will look for checks first. I have a check. I have multiple checks with the queen, as is always the case. I'm pretty sure that taking the bishop is bad, and this check is bad because of the pawn. This check is bad because of the bishop. Pretty sure on e7 the king would capture me, and the same thing is true with f7. So is there a problem with queen checking on d8? It's protected by my rook. I think that would leave the king only one legal move, which is to come up. But then my queen would be in danger because their rook would be pointed at it. Could I check again at that point? I could check again with by bringing the queen back. But that's a repetition. I could check again by bringing the knight up, but I think they would capture it. Okay, I think the problem with checking here is that once the king moves up to f7, I don't have a good follow-up check. So what's the answer here? Wait, I can check with other pieces besides the queen. I can check with the rook down there. Is that checkmate? I can't believe I almost missed that. But yeah, I think that's checkmate because they can't block it, they can't take it, and they can't get out of check. The only ways to get out of check is to block it, take the checking piece, or to move the king out of check. I think that's mate. And it took me long enough, so I only got 5 points. And it says that one only has a pass rate of 59%, which I'm guessing a bunch of people tried the queen check first. Next puzzle. All right, the opponent has taken something here. Do I have a checkmate? That's checkmate, isn't it? I think my queen to c1 is checkmate because the knight can't take because the knight is pinned by my rook and my queen will be cutting off all of these squares and my bishop's cutting off that one. So I think that's a checkmate in one. Pretty sure they don't have anything besides the knight guarding the bishop. The bishop used to guard that square, but it came down here thinking taking a rook would be a good idea. Pretty sure this is checkmate. Okay. Oh, and I got that one a little bit faster. Good for me. I think I complain about it at least once in every puzzles video, but these themes are off, aren't they? Especially the passed pawns one. There are 3 passed pawns on the board, but that's not the theme of this puzzle. Next puzzle. White to move. Okay, I have a queen down here, I have a knight down here. Currently the knight is guarding both of those squares. My pawn is protecting this one, f5, and my queen's cutting off all of these. Wait, is this also a checkmate in one? Because I have a ton of checks here, but when I pointed the pawn there, I immediately saw this check here with the queen. So let's just take a look at that one. The queen is protected by the pawn, and the queen, of course, would be cutting off all of these squares. No, it's not because the king would have a move. The knight is guarding that one as well, but the king would move over one, and then I think I would bring my queen over to e5, where the knight would be protecting it. The king's protecting the knight. Okay, maybe it's a mate in 2. Okay, if I take the queen to f5, I'm pretty sure the king has only one legal move at that point, and that is to go toward my knight. And then I just move my queen over one. And from there, the knight's guarding the queen, and the queen is cutting off all of these squares, and the king is cutting off those 2. So this is, I'm pretty sure, a mate in 2. I don't think there's another mate in 1 that I'm missing, because if I bring the queen to, say, e7, the king has a way out. And then, if I followed that check, the king can continue to run. Are there any other checks that, stop that from happening? No, they can get out. If I check here, they can get out. If I check here, they can get out. If I check here, they can take my queen. If I check here, they can take my queen. If I check here, they can take my queen. If I check here, that's the one that I said was a mate in 2. And I think if I check over here, they'll take with the queen. So I'm going to check on f5, leaving them only the legal move of coming to d6. And then I think this is mate. Oh, they had another move that I didn't notice. Well, then is the queen coming down to e7 checkmate? It's mate in 3 then, at least, because I probably missed something else. I'm going to go down there. Okay, it was a mate in 3. Oh, and it's simple. I guess it wasn't that complicated. That is embarrassing that I thought I had a mate in 2, and it was actually mate in 3. I'm making pretty good time also, so next puzzle. Oh, I'm in check. Oh, those are the worst ones. I always get out of check the wrong way. And my normal puzzle checklist doesn't apply to these situations because it looks for me having checks against the opponent. It looks for me capturing opponent pieces and threats. But here I have to get out of check, so we have to default to the actual rules of chess. There are only 3 ways to get out of check in chess, and one is to block, which isn't possible here because the checking piece is right next to my king. The other way, of course, is to capture the checking piece, which is possible. And the other way is to get out of check, which looks like I have 2 options to do that here. No, I have 3 options to get out of check here. Okay, so I have to evaluate 4 possible moves. I think the problem with just moving out of check is that they can then take my queen, and when I take back, I have a rook and a knight and a bishop left, and they have a queen and a rook left, which is better. And then at that point, I assume they would just get their rook out of danger? Oh, not there, because then I would fork them. Huh. So the problem with that is that I lose the queen, for the rook. So I get a rook and a pawn for the queen. Then they can check me again, which I guess I could block with the pawn. Then they'd have to move the queen and I would win the rook. Wait, maybe that's it. But if I just move out of check down here, they get my queen for the rook, and I don't think I have any compensation for that. Okay, so what if I take the rook? If I take the rook, I've just picked up a rook. They can take my queen with the pawn, but then I can take their pawn too and be threatening their queen. And when they move it, I'll get this rook for the bishop. And then all they will have left is a queen. And let's say they got their queen out of danger here so they could get the bishop after that. I would have a rook and a knight for their queen. All right, well, this one's a little complicated because either way, I have to give up my queen for the rook, whether I take now or take here and let them take. Well, I paused my recording and I looked at this for quite some time. And I think I found a problem with taking the pawn. At first, I followed both possibilities out, taking the rook now or taking the pawn and taking the rook back here. And I think the problem with taking the pawn first with the king is that after they take my queen and I take back, their queen can come up here to b6. And from there, it's pointed at my rook and my bishop. And so if I move my rook over, say here, to control the open file, to get it out of danger, then they pick up my bishop. And all I've got is a rook and a knight, and they have a queen and a rook, if I calculated that correctly. But if I take the rook first, the problem with that is that I don't know whether they're going to take back with the queen. If they take back with the queen, then I would follow with the rook, and they would take that too, and I would take that. And then I assumed they would move the rook out of danger. And if I've calculated that correctly, I would have more pieces left than the opponent. If I take here first, they take back with the queen, which I don't know that they will. I'll get their queen too. They'll get my rook. Oh, and then I would get their rook. Okay, so maybe they won't take with the queen. Maybe they'll take with the pawn. If they take with the pawn, I think I take the pawn with my rook, and I'm threatening their queen, but I assumed they would move it over here so they could take back when I took the rook with the bishop. I think I have to take the rook with the queen, but I'm not sure I'm going to come out on top of this one, so I'm a little nervous about this, but I'm going to take the rook with my queen, and fingers crossed. Okay, they took with the pawn, which is what I said I thought they would do. Well, I have to take the pawn now. I'm pretty sure. Right? If I just take the rook, they're going to promote guarded by their queen, and it'll be really close to checkmate, if not actual to checkmate. So I think I have to take the pawn with the rook. Why did they do that? Oh, because they're protecting against me taking the rook, but I should take it anyway, shouldn't I? Or should I defend it? Can I defend the bishop? And is that any good? Okay, because now the question is, if I take the rook and they take back, is my rook and knight going to be stronger than their queen? I don't think it is. But I don't know what else to do other than take the rook. If that's wrong, we'll find out why. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know why, and that's because the queen is stronger than the knight and the rook combined. And if it's right, I also want to know why. But I don't see anything else. I mean, I could threaten the queen, but they could just take that. So I'm not sure about that. Okay, I'm going to take the rook. What else is there? I can't check. I mean, I can, but they'll just take that. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to threaten the queen there, or does it? Wait, what if I threaten the queen with the knight? Okay, it wouldn't go here. Where would it go? Oh, it could just move up beside the knight. Yeah, but then I get the rook for free. Aw, maybe that's it. Where else could they go from there? No, if I put the knight on c6 to threaten the queen, they can check me over here on f5. That's a check. And then when I moved out of check, they could get the rook out of danger from the bishop. Okay, I'm back to taking the rook. Hopefully, fingers crossed. What? Why? Sorry, why would they do that? I was fully expecting the puzzle to be over, or my move to be wrong, or them to take my bishop. But they didn't take my bishop for reasons unknown to me. They've threatened this knight. Okay. If I had expected that, I might have done something different. I mean, obviously I want to get the knight out of danger, right? Because, I don't want to check first. Their queen's guarding that square. That doesn't make much sense. They could have taken my bishop anyway, but they didn't, so I shouldn't worry about the bishop. But if I just go over here with my knight to threaten the queen, then they're just going to take the bishop, but then my knight's protecting that square where I can check. Okay, is it c6 now? Because I figured out why it wasn't c6 on the last turn, but is it c6 now? No, they could still check, though. They still don't have to take the bishop. They can come check. And when I move out of check, then they just pick off a free pawn. Maybe. I don't know. But if they do pick off the free pawn... Wait, back up. Instead of moving out of check, let's say I threaten the queen now. I don't think they'll take the bishop because, again, I could check down here and win the queen for the rook, and I would have a knight left. So let's say when I threaten here, if they did come to check, I could block with the rook, which protects this pawn later. So if they do pick off my h pawn, at least the g1 is safe, and it's protecting the other one, and I have all three of these pieces left. Okay, I'm going to try knight to c6. Again, fingers crossed. I have not been sure about any of the moves in this puzzle, and the opponent keeps surprising me. Oh, and it stopped. What? That one was rated over 2200. Okay, I'm going to go to the analysis board, and I'm curious about the ending there. I think we talked our way through the rest of it, but after this, is it their best move to check me? It looks like it is, although its other moves are pretty close. Queen to a6 is okay, and I think it was right about not taking the bishop because of the rook checking on d8. Okay, it does say them checking me over here on f5 is their best move, and that's why the puzzle didn't continue, because my best move is not that much better than my next best move. It's either rook to d3 or king to c3. Now it says if I moved the king, they would take the h-pawn. But if I block with the rook, then they're going to bring their king. I guess I understand. That one seemed a little out of my league, but I can't dwell on it any longer because I only have so much time. I need to go on to the next puzzle. Deep breath, next puzzle. All right, the pawn has threatened my queen. I think I could check to get out of danger, but then they would just move over. Well, I don't think I've really used it in this video so far, but I'm going to go back to my checklist. Let's stick with the checklist. I do have a check, and I think that's my only check. In that case, the king moves over, and I don't think I have a follow-up. I currently have two other checks besides the queen move, and that is the knight down to e2, which looks like they could take it and finally develop that bishop. And if I checked by taking the b3 pawn, I don't think they would take back with the a-pawn because that would be mate. But what if they took back with the c-pawn? Would I have anything then? Okay, sorry. I thought somebody called me from the other room, and I went and checked, and they said, no, they were just talking really loudly. But now I forgot where I was. It looks like because of the arrows here, I was considering this check here, capturing on b3. I think they would just take back with the c-pawn. My queen would still be in danger. I could still check, but they could still just move out of the way. I don't think I have anything. And I think I already dispensed with that check. They could just take me one of two different ways, and my queen is still in danger. Actually, yeah, they would just take the knight, and then I would have to get the queen out of danger, and then they would, be fine. So is there something else? Is there a capture? I can take this pawn and put their queen in danger. I think they could just take back. Wait, is that it? I was just kind of trying to cover all my bases, but if I take here, and they take my queen, I take their queen, and their knight's in danger, I don't know where it would go, but they would have messed up the pawn structure around their king. But what if I take here and they take back? Then nothing's defending their queen, and I could check over here and give up the knight and win their queen with my queen. Okay, so what if they don't take back with the pawn? Because that's the hope, is that they would take back with the pawn so that I could check here and then win their queen with my queen. But what if I take this pawn and they do something else? Like, they could check me. Oh, yeah, why didn't I see that knight sitting there already? They can just check me, and then I have to move over one, and then they wouldn't take my rook because their queen would still be in danger. But after they took here, and I checked, and they took my knight, and then I would take their queen, then they would get my rook, and oh my. Maybe that's not it. That's really complicated. Oh my goodness. What else is there? Do I have any other captures? Let's see. I can capture this knight, but I think they would just take back one of two different ways. I could take that pawn with my knight, but my queen's still hanging. The reason that I thought this might be it is because then it's kind of it's not really danger levels because that's an equal amount of danger. But let's say that they took my queen. I took their queen. Their knight's in danger. It has to move. No, it doesn't have to because they still have this check. Yeah, now that I noticed that possible fork there, I'm just not sure. All right, yeah, this one might be above my comfort level or ability level, but I want to keep pushing at it, even though my time here on my end is almost over. The only way I know to solve this or to try to solve it is to go back through the checklist again, and I think I covered all the checks. I have the queen. I think the problem with this is that it doesn't leave me significantly ahead. If I capture on f5 with this pawn, they can just take my queen, and when I take theirs, they may or may not move that knight. Let's say that they do. They still have both knights and both bishops and a rook. and I'll just have a knight and a bishop and 2 rooks. And I don't think that leaves me ahead, even if I've banged up the pawns around the king. But the one thing on my checklist that I didn't cover is threats. Do I have any threats? Other than this, I count that more as a threat than a capture. That's really more of a threat, but we've already gone through that. This is a capture, but it doesn't really threaten anything. I think they would just take back with the bishop. And I'm pretty bad at looking for threats, and also I'm pretty worried about this now that I saw it. The knight check on c2. I mean, maybe that's not as big as a threat as I initially thought, because I could just move the king up. But then if I did that, they can just take this pawn, and it's a discovered check from the queen. I mean, if I hadn't moved yet, if it was their turn, right? No, if it was their turn, they would take my queen. But let's say instead of moving that pawn, they had checked me here. If I came toward it, they could take this pawn first, and I would have to get out of check, and then they would get my rook. Oh no, if they checked me, I would take the knight. But still, it's not their turn. I shouldn't go down that path. Any other threats? I didn't consider it, but it doesn't accomplish anything to take that pawn, does it? No. I just lose my queen. Well, I've talked myself out of every idea that I came up with here, but you know what? What about taking this pawn? That is a capture. I should consider it. It's not a check, so my opponent can do something. But it's not only a capture, it's a threat because I'm threatening mate. I think they need to move this bishop someplace because that would be their only way out. And then when I went down and checked, they'd have to move out. And then what would I do? Come back here and check? They wouldn't be able to stop the possible mate threat of me moving down to a1, so they would have to give themselves a way out, and I don't know how they would do it. If they moved the bishop that way, I would just take it. No, I wouldn't, because I would still be on a2. Okay, so if I take on a2, they could put the bishop here, which guards against this check. Then what do I play? If they put the bishop here, which not only gives them a way out, but keeps me from going to a1. Let's see. Oh, I'm threatening mate here too, because of the knight. So I'm threatening mate twice. Maybe that's it. I'm past my time. I've got to move. I can't think of anything else. It stopped. Oh, come on. I've got other things to do, but I'm going to check the analysis board really quick. Maybe you already know, but I didn't see it. Okay, they did that. I have a mate in 4. Okay, then why didn't it continue? What's their best move? It says their best move is to check me. That delays mate the longest, and it doesn't matter whether I go to f8 or d8. But if I go to d7, this whole thing lasts longer because they can check me this way. So let's say I went the way that makes it not last longer. Now they're going to check by going in here. Well, I can just take that, right? Oh, I don't have to, though. I don't have to take it. I can just move over and I still have a mate in 2. But I would probably take it. And it doesn't matter what they do. I either have the check here, or wait, if they play c3, then my mate is there. Knight capturing b3. But if they play anything else, this is mate. And I'm assuming certain things that they play, I would still have the mate on a1, right? Like if they just pushed this pawn forward. Yeah, I have multiple mates in 1s. Well, I don't know how much cumulative time I spent on that. Rest assured, I've cut out most of the pauses and everything else for your end. Thank you for spending your time here, and let me know what you're doing to get better at chess. I'll see you next time.